I did not know what was wrong with me. I really didn't. There were a lot of people out there that did know what was wrong with me, but they didn't know what to do with me.
Drugs and alcohol, a major problem in the entertainment industry. Hi, I'm Gary Thiemann in Hollywood, and this is The Bottom Line. And here's a success story for one of the major networks. Meet Red.
Red, and I'm an alcoholic. In the third chapter in Alcoholics Anonymous, more about alcoholism, the paragraph starts, despite all we can say, and the paragraph ends with ad infinitum. And it talks about all the things that alcoholics do to prove that they're not alcoholics. I like to say that Alcoholics Anonymous has given me back my life. I worked in rock and roll bands. I worked in country western bands. I worked in the media industry, the entertainment industry. I still do that today. And I think the media has a responsibility to the country and to the world to use the tool that they have so that they can educate the people with that particular fine tool that sits in your living room today or sits in your den. Through radio and television and newspapers, I think that we could show the fact that alcoholism and chemical dependency is a disease and that it can be combated on a daily basis. I did not know what was wrong with me. I really didn't. There were a lot of people out there that did know what was wrong with me, but they didn't know what to do with me. Finally, it was through my labor union that gave me an opportunity to see what was going on in my life. They were able to speak my language, and they were able to talk to me in terms that I understood that alcoholism is a disease, and the chemicals in my life are affecting my way of life. Today, I'm glad of that. And what I hope to put out today is to show you that there are people in the media that are trying to go through this on a daily basis to help the other people in the media to go along with this. It's been a long, hard battle. I work for one of the major networks in television, and that's okay today. At one time, it was not okay to be an alcoholic and to be in our industry. There are a lot of people in our industry of entertainment that have this particular disease. My story is only one of many. It's taken a long time for the entertainment industry to accept the fact that alcoholism is a disease. We're not like any other industry. I don't remember any other industry ever being paid off with chemicals. I don't remember any other industry being paid off with alcohol as part of your salary, as part of your perks, as part of the way of life on a regular daily basis.
People sometimes point their finger at the negatives of the entertainment business, but through the various labor unions in the business, they've offered that caring hand to help those still suffering alcoholic addicts, to rehabilitate rather than to chastise. But before we get to recovery, there is the price of pain. A typical day at one of the major television networks.
When I first started working at the particular place I work at, one of the major networks, it was quite a thing to drink and use while you were working. It seemed to be possible to do as much drugs and as much alcohol as possible that you can get away with to go in and do the job. And what ended up happening was the fact that near the end of my drinking and using, there were a lot of people that didn't want to work with me. There were a lot of people that just put up with me because I was there, and there were very few people that would allow me to come back and work with them. Near the end of my drinking, it was the major reason that I drank and used was because I was awake and I wanted to get out of it. And my day reporting to work would start off about 2.5 to 3 hours early in one of the local bars that I had a charge account at. And I'd go in and have just enough drinks to go in and have a good enough glow as I went into work. And I would sit there and then I would go over to the prop man or the people that I worked with and line up my next shooters, because when I started coming down, I needed this. Well, since I quit drinking, there's been about 3 or 4 bars that have closed, and I don't think that that's a direct result of of my drinking, but there's been several other people that I worked with, you know, the crews that I worked with and everything else. I came back into my work environment working with the same people that I drank and used with. And the only thing that was different was they accepted the fact that I didn't drink anymore. They accepted the fact that I was sober and I was trying to do the best I can without drinking. And there were a lot of guys that gave me support, and there were a lot of guys that did that because they knew I was trying to do something around. And one of the guys said, it's so nice to work with you sober. I hope you don't go back to drinking.
You stand at the bar and start out laughing, but end up crying on a shoulder that will listen. I've heard your story of your love being stranded, left standing in the corner by yourself, all alone. I cannot promise that we'll always be lovers. A lover is one thing that you will always need. So I can promise that I won't leave you stranded, left standing in a corner by yourself, all alone. And oh, how we learn from love, as sad and blue as can be. Oh, not my first love and won't be my last, but tonight please be someone to me. As sad and blue as can be. Oh, not my first love and won't be my last, but tonight please be someone to me. Tonight please be someone to me.
Near the end of my drinking, it was the major reason that I drank and used was because I was awake and I wanted to get out of it. In the past 11 years, basically everybody on the crew that I worked with, the crews that I've worked with, have all come into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, or Cocaine Anonymous, or Narcotics Anonymous, because they finally just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And it was not any miraculous 12-step work that I did. It was not any miraculous things that I did. I didn't go back and preach to the guys I worked with, because I knew they had to find their own way. The only thing I did was I showed up sober no matter what. I didn't drink no matter what. Some of my best friends died, and I didn't drink over it. There were some pretty good wakes that went on, and I went to them because I respected not only the man but his family also. But I didn't drink at those particular functions. There were a lot of big parties, and I didn't drink at those. I didn't use at those parties either.
And a lot of the people said that they were happy to see me sober. The longer I've stayed sober, the more beneficial it's become, because to see the people in my business and the crews that I worked with starting to get sober and their lives change, and they go out and do the things that they want to do, has really become a very, very enjoyable way of life. You know, we drank together, we played together. You know, when it was time to drink, we went out and drank. And when it was time to play, we went out and played. And not too many people bothered us. We've been known to go into bars and totally take over the bar and just have one hell of a good time doing it. And today it's not that way. We go into a park and we basically take over a park because we go out there and we have a good time. We still have a lot of fun together. I've been fortunate in my sobriety to have a couple of children named after me. I've been fortunate enough to be godfather to some of the children. And I don't understand those things. See, those are neat things that have come out of sobriety that my higher power has taken the time and the energy to show me. I think it's really neat that I've been able to have a labor union that not only understood alcoholism, but took the time to educate somebody that was willing to come and talk to me and say, this is the problem I have, why don't you do something about it? Here's what you can do, and show me the ropes. And say that it's okay to be in my business and not have to be half in the bag to do a job. I'm not going to tell you that it's all been easy, because some of it's been real hard. Some of it's been real difficult to do. But it hasn't been half as difficult if I'd have been drinking and using. My labor union supported me when I was in the hospital the last time. My labor union sat there and took advantage of the fact that I was down and out, and they sent somebody in that could speak the language that I could speak. You know, those are the things that have been beneficial in my sobriety, and when I can go back into my place for work and put in a good 8-hour or 10 or 16-hour day, which is very common in our business, and feel good about it, I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I like working in the business that I'm in. It gives me the energies, and it gives me the upfront knowledge that I have that is functional for my business. I like that. I like the highs I get off of working in my business. I think it's neat to go home and see something that I've done on the television tube. I think it's neat to be involved in something that people write about in the newspapers. You know, and I think it's worthwhile for me to stay sober in my business and carry the message to those that may have a problem in it. Whether they respect me or not, whether they understand me or not, or whether they want to be part of what I'm a part of or not. What I have to do is stay sober no matter what and carry the message. See, sometimes just by showing up sober is the best message I can carry. One guy said he waited 3.5 years for me to stop drinking. And just to make sure before he got on the program, he waited another 3.5 years, and he said he almost killed himself watching me not drink.
Just the start of recovery can be traumatic. It's not easy. That's why sharing the message is so very important, and so many 12-step programs have what you call a sponsor.
His name was Bob. He was an older man. Between 1968 and 1975, he sat there in 243 Angelino in Burbank and watched me come in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous. And he used to call me boy. And I understood that. And every time I was in jail, and every time I was down in the hospitals, or every time I was there, anywhere incarcerated, it seemed like old Bob would show up with a pack of Lucky Strikes, a big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he'd read to me out of it. And I'd say, "Old man, why don't you get out of here with that stuff? Why don't you go somewhere else and practice on somebody else, because I'm hopeless." He said, "If I thought you was hopeless, I wouldn't be here." Well, June 22nd, I was strapped down to an oak table local hospital. And I come out of about a 4-day drunk. And high use of chemicals. And I'm down on this oak table, and I come to, and there's Bob sitting there with that Lucky Strike in his mouth, reading to me from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I says, what in God's name are you doing here? I'm really cleaning this up. And he says, I'm sitting here reading Freedom from Bondage, which is one of the chapters in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Bob sat there with me for 2 days while I was chained down. Bob took the time to show me that there's a way of life in Alcoholics Anonymous. Bob gave me the strength that I didn't know that I was there. He showed me the spiritual way of life. He was afflicted with a terminal illness and had to move to Albuquerque, New Mexico. And about 2 months before he died, I was down visiting him, and he looked at me and he says, you know, this sure is a lot easier than drinking. Here's a man that was dying from cancer, and was dying from tuberculosis. His body was just, basically a shell. And when he looked at me and he said that, I just couldn't believe him saying that. He said, I'd much rather go this way than go as a drunk, because that's 1,000 deaths. And I carried a picture of him with me for a long time. And I still carry a lot of things with him that he gave to me. We have a generation that we should be responsible to. And that generation is coming around today, growing up slowly and educating themselves with the help of other people. And a lot of this comes from our industry that does this, because they can identify with them. They identify with sports figures, actors, behind-the-scenes people, and people that are in offices that toot up behind closed doors. And that's okay today. But it's getting less and less in our business. The media has an enormous responsibility in giving out that information. Unfortunately, it still is looked upon as a moral disease in a lot of areas. And it's not really a moral issue. It's not really a fact of willpower. What it is a simple disease, just like any other disease we have. There have been people chastised in our business. There have been people taken out of positions in our business because they couldn't handle their booze, because they couldn't handle their drugs. And the reason they were taken out was because instead of rehabilitating them, it's easier to put somebody in that particular position. And over the last 10 years, my particular union has taken the time and the energy to slowly educate the people. This is not a quick process. This is not a process like the math professors or the computers or all the other industries that are around. Ours is a slow process and has to take the time to educate not only the new people that are coming up, but we also have to educate the old people that are there. I'm doing something that I believe in very, very, very much. And when I do that and I know that somebody's received the message that I give, then I know that it's going to be a worthwhile cause to continue on. I'm a very fortunate man to be in the entertainment industry and be sober. 10 years ago, there wasn't too many of us. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous in the 5th chapter tells us we strive for spiritual perfection. And in the big book, it talks of Alcoholics Anonymous. It talks about God and that kind of stuff, and that scared me to death because the God I was raised with was a lot different than any other God that I ever knew.
And finally, I read in there that I could have my own conception of God. I have my own ideas about what God is. And as in the 12 steps, and as throughout that book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says, God as we understand Him. And that really gave me a chance to lay down a lot of those old ideas and those old ritualistic things that I was raised with. And I found out that I have a God that is very loving and very caring. Sometimes He's a real jokester, you know, and sometimes He's a real miserable to me. But I know that that's when I'm in self-control. There's a part in the big book that scares me a whole lot that says sometime there will come a time when there will have no physical defense against another drink. But if I have a strong spiritual background, I can do that. I will have that defense. And those times have come. And had it not been for the grace of my higher power, I don't think I would have had that. See, the spirituality of this program is what keeps this program alive. It's not the money. You know, it's not the people. It's the spirituality. My higher power protects me. He does not take me anywhere at all that He's not going to protect me. See, and I have to have that faith that's going in that. And it's taken some time to get there. But the more time I spend trying to find it, the better off I am. You know, I'm comfortable 95% of the time today. And that's due as a direct result is my relationship that I have with my power greater than myself, who I call God today. Sometimes I call Him Pappy. I'm glad that Alcoholics Anonymous has taken the time and the energies to show me that I can have that power in me. I can have that spirit in me. I can have that knowledge and that wisdom within me. Because He gives me that strength, and He gives me that knowledge, and He gives me that wisdom, and He gives me that serenity that are all promised to me. There are 12 promises in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And those 12 promises come true to me because I maintain that spiritual contact. See, we don't go out and preach spiritual perfection. We just try. We just try to achieve a little bit more spiritual connection. And when you get that spiritual connection, boy, is that a neat high. It's just a super high, and I love it. I think it's neat. I used to pay a lot of money to get that high. I don't have to pay a red cent today except get out on my knees and say, okay, Pappy, let's do it again today. Let's have a good time with it, and let's enjoy each other. Let me do thy will. Let me do what you want me to do. Give me that strength and knowledge, and I intuitively fall into those situations that used to baffle me. My economic situations are practically nil now. My life as I used to know it is no longer my life anymore. It's just my past. What lies before me today is the things that God has given me to work with. I don't have a fear of a lot of people today. I've been very, very lucky. Been very fortunate. The spiritual way on this program is what is aligned with the people on the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. The spiritual life in this program is what's in the people.
You've been listening to The Bottom Line. I'm Gary Thiemann. Thank you so much for joining me. And thank you, Red. Thank you for sharing with us a very important past with the hopes that it just might help someone. This show is produced in Hollywood. Until next week, share the message, won't you? This has been a GRT production.
One step closer now, with one more face. In paradise, they tell me that the sun shines all night. And maybe I'm crazy, believing that stuff. But if this is it, well, it's not enough. I'm too close to paradise and too close to hell. And sometimes the day